Okay, thank you very much for being with us. As you know, this is the New York Medical Cannabis Industry Association, represents the industries that are running the dispensaries, the medical cannabis dispensaries. The medical program in New York has been deteriorating for some time. I happen to have actually covered its legalization. That's exactly how old I am. And I do remember the impassioned pleas, particularly of parents of pediatric patients who really wanted to see a significant impact on their children's lives. This program has made a significant positive impact on people's lives, but unfortunately it is deteriorating significantly. So I'm gonna just be the MC for this event. I'm gonna introduce you to Katie Neer, who's been working with the association for some time, and she'll give you a little bit of background. Katie.
Thanks, Liz. Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here today. As Liz said, the Medical Cannabis Industry Association represents the registered organizations providing medical cannabis to New York patients and have been since about 2015, 2016. So our medical program here in New York is nearly 10 years old, but it's one of the most conservative and restrictive in the country. The barriers to access are very high for patients, providers, and for operators. The MCIA has been advocating to lower those barriers to entry for nearly a decade with limited success. The MRTA, the law that was enacted in 2021 to legalize adult use cannabis, also codified very, very critical improvements and expansions for the medical cannabis program. Unfortunately, those improvements have been very slow to be implemented. And at this point, the program is in crisis. It's in a very, very big crisis. And so instead of hearing from companies about how hard it is to sustain their businesses, today we're gonna highlight patients, real life stories from real life New Yorkers who have been very impacted positively by medical cannabis, but negatively by the challenges this program and the overregulation and overcomplication and lack of attention from the state's regulators and decision makers has resulted in. Specifically, about 12 dispensaries, medical dispensaries, have closed in the last 12 months. We are down from 150,000 patients in New York to under 100,000 patients. It's time for action, and I'm excited for New Yorkers and decision makers in the state capitol to hear from patients directly.
Okay, thank you very much, Katie. So as you note, this program, Katie pointed out, is 10 years old. The access that patients are experiencing is actually quite dire, particularly in the western part of the state. There were 40 dispensaries at one point. Legally, there could be 80 under the MRTA, as Katie mentioned. At this point right now, there are 31. There was one in the city of Buffalo. It has since closed, and now there is a dispensary in Amherst, which is not easily accessible, particularly if you do not have a car. And so really this is a story of patients and why they rely on the medical cannabis program, how medical cannabis is not, in fact, the same thing as adult use cannabis, which is a misconception. You actually can't get some of the medical grade products that you might rely on. And so I'd like to introduce you to some of the patients. And Nikki, do you want to kick it off? Nikki Lawley is from Western New York, and she'll be speaking first.
Good morning. Every one of us here today is one step away from a car accident, from something that impacts our life so dramatically that it can change in a second. I'm one of those people that was just doing their job and a fluke accident happened at my work where a child became combative for a vaccine. I was working as a pediatric nurse and my life changed in a second with a traumatic brain injury. I was on over 60 different medications. I saw over 60 different providers. I was a victim of the New York State Workers' Compensation System, and cannabis was never offered as a treatment. As a pediatric nurse, I was not aware that medical cannabis could help so many things. And this is where the stigma comes in. As a graduate with honors of the Nancy Reagan DARE program, I truly believed cannabis was something that no one can get medicinal benefits from. And when I became injured, it was never offered as an alternative therapy or solution to my significant cognitive function issues, anxiety, depression, and chronic pain. At the end of the day, I'm here to share the story of hope and give people options, because pharmaceuticals can have such a detrimental effect on so many different aspects of a person's well-being. And for me, the pharmaceuticals that I was put on, being on 16 different pills, literally jacked up my brain chemistry so significantly that I was suicidal. I found cannabis by accident as I was contemplating taking my life in Las Vegas, and a mobile billboard came driving by advertising, "Get your medical marijuana card in Nevada today." That billboard I laughed at. Then it came by a second time. Everything in our life happens for a reason. If you would have told me 8 years ago that I was going to be this outspoken cannabis advocate, I would literally say, there's no way. And I can just say this plant has done more for me than any pharmaceutical ever has. We must talk about our stories. We must share how the plant makes a difference in our life. At the end of the day, it's not about getting high. It's about getting well. And I hope that this message is received so well and people really start to share their stories and their journeys, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to change hearts, minds, and lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nikki. We are also joined by a patient who is from New York City. Are you ready?
Yes, I just need to be handed my phone.
Sure. And just introduce yourself and spell your last name for the cameras.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sydney Spank. I am 25 years old and live in New York City. I have for about 8 years now. And
Where is it?
and here I have some things that I would like to share with you today. So, I started using cannabis ever since 2021, when I first got certified in the state. I use medical cannabis for pain, mood, insomnia, and appetite relief. Access to medical cannabis has changed my life financially, physically, personally, and professionally. I've gone through the 5 stages of grief, I would say, with cannabis. From going from violently against it because the gateway drug misconception to being an active participant and advocate in the industry. I was raised in California, but I hadn't become an active user until I moved to NYC when I was diagnosed with Turner's tooth and some severe anxiety. After my diagnosis, I dropped out of school and have continued to struggle with my health, keeping me from furthering my education, my community, career, and connecting to the city that I call home. I had a massive financial responsibility to my health condition that affected every part of my daily living, and medical marijuana helped me overcome some of these challenges. Product options have broadened since my initial certification in 2021 and has helped me better manage my conditions. But I know that this is far from the real solution for this program. Cannabis has been an effective solution for my appetite loss, to pain, to anxiety, and access has allowed me to stay in the city and even thrive in the city with myself and my family, confident knowing that what I'm ingesting is made with the safest precautions possible. I use medical cannabis as opposed to recreational, very specifically because it reduces the use of other medications with more severe side effects. Like Nikki mentioned before me, I found it as a fantastic substitute to other prescribed medications that would have severe side effects long-term and weren't sustainable with my daily living. I'm confident in dosages, making things like edibles more reliable method of delivery and reducing other methods. Labeled medicine, medical cannabis as it should be, I think creates more accountability and in maintaining a higher quality of standard. Medical cannabis employees are more interested in educating about cannabis wellness, helping patients find the right products rather than maximizing any profits, maintaining an environment not focused on achieving psychoactive activities, and also helping about the other uses of cannabis. And lastly, there are issues that I have experienced accessing medical cannabis. As useful as cannabis is, accessing it takes an immense amount of effort. The state offers no assistance besides listing doctors who participate in the medical program, and not their insurance nor their certificate fee. This creates a huge gap in access, giving some of the impression a certificate is expensive or takes a long time or isn't applied to them. And while third-party companies have been able to fill this gap by connecting people directly with patients at a fee, I don't think it's sustainable to rely on any companies or marketing to ensure eligibility for patients most of the time. Myself and other patients buy in bulk because so many medical locations have shut down. Options are far distances and production is very small, but in high demand and competitive, creating unnecessary stress for patients. Delivery isn't available, understandably, as a controlled substance, but a fair amount of patients are homebound and could use the convenience of closer locations and maybe delivery services. Despite being a prescribed substance, medical marijuana is taxed, making prices for it large, expensive. The state is indecisive about their compliance procedures, causing whiplash and lost time to bureaucracy for patients and employees of the industry. That covers my statement for today, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Sydney. We're also, I believe, joined by Ilana Frankel. She's going to be speaking next.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ilana Frankel. I am a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister. I'm an award-winning filmmaker, author of 3 books, a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, a founding editor-in-chief, a writer, and none of this would be possible if it wasn't for medical marijuana. About 10 years ago, I suffered a traumatic brain injury, fracturing my skull 4.5 inches. I lost my ability to move, to speak, to smell, to taste. My brain was so swollen, the doctors told me all I could do was lay in bed, brain in bed rest in a dark room for possibly up to a year, maybe even 3. That wasn't an option for me. I am privileged and lucky enough to be able to have accessed medical marijuana at the time. And the most important part of the plant for me at that moment was the CBD, CBG, all of the cannabinoids in the plant that were anti-inflammatory, that were able to relieve the swelling in my brain so that I could heal. I could be standing here today. A microdose of THC was all I needed for pain management and sleep. The most important part of the plant was the CBD, the CBG. I am here today. I am thriving because I was able to access the plant. It is of the utmost importance to me to make sure that everyone who wants the plant as medicine can get it, access it safely. We do an injustice to the constituents of New York without any public health information going along with it. Education. It's not about potency and price, it's about a symphony, an entourage of effects that the plant can bring to the body, to our endocannabinoid system. It's a personalized experience that made me thrive. It's not inhalation all the time, it's ingestion, it's topicals. It's all of the modes, all of the protocols that can be created to get something inside of you to help you heal. I am privileged to be here. I am privileged to stand with my fellow patients in order to really emphasize that this program not only must exist, but it must thrive, just like I am. I want to see healthcare insurance cover the cost. I want to see dosage conversations. I want to see potency and price conversations. I want safe, regulated access to plant-based therapeutics so that others can be here in my shoes and tell their story. Thank you.
As you can see, we have quite a few folks who are positively impacted by this program. Unfortunately, it's going to take some reforms and expansion to ensure that what they are seeking is actually available. I'm going to have Katie address that and wrap things up. If you have questions, please let us know.
Thank you, and thank you, Sydney. Thank you, Alana. Thank you, Nikki, for coming today and sharing your story. To wrap this up, I do want to end with our calls to action. And so many of these were discussed by the patients, but today we are here advocating for the Senate and the Assembly to include in their one house budget bills the elimination of the excise tax on medical cannabis. We do not tax Tylenol. We do not tax any other medication in New York State. We are one of the few remaining states with a medical program that continues to put a tax on patients. It's time to eliminate that tax. We are also calling for reciprocity for out-of-state patients. You heard from Nikki today. That saved her life. Out-of-state reciprocity in another state market got her into medical cannabis. It's time for the commuters, the students, and the tourists of New York to be able to access their medicine here. We also have bigger policy goals, such as mandating insurance coverage for medical cannabis. We also would like to see pharmacists that are employed within the dispensaries be authorized to certify walk-in patients who come in with an already diagnosed qualifying condition. There's another bill that would mandate healthcare practitioners be educated about the cannabinoids. These things must get done. It's time for action. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for being here today.